So, welcome back. Chapter 9, thermae, baths, right? This chapter introduced us to the dative case, right, which is generally two or for something. It has some other uses we'll see later. Also, the accusative and dative forms of to, you, and ego, I, right? So, tibi and te, mihi, and me, time. So, first of all, the verbs are underlined in red. So, habebant, ebant, ambalabant, ferabant. Then they're all the same tense, right? Ba. So, imperfect tense, right? And then in green, we have our nominatives, Kiwes Pompiani. Kiwes, that could be nominative or accusative, right? But with Pompiani, it's got to be nominative, right? Because Pompiani, the adjective, has a definitely nominative ending, the second declension nominative plural I. So Kiwes Pompiani, nominative. Kiwes Pompianos would be accusative. So that's a subject. Then the second Kiwes, right? Kiwes Ebant, citizens were going. Really can't be accusative because you can't go citizens, right? So it's got to be a subject. It's got to be nominative. And then we have serwi twice. Of course, they're nominative because they're second declension nominative plural. They have that I ending. Okay. Then in black we have accusatives. Trace termas. Right? Three baths. That's a direct object. Right? What do they have? Three baths. And then termas again at the end of that first line. There's the object of a preposition. Ad. And then dominos is accusative because it's the object of a preposition. Post. Then we have oleum and strigolas, right? They're going to be the direct objects of ferivant. They're what's being carried, right? Strigolas, third declension, so that form could be nominative or accusative, but one, it wouldn't make sense for it to be a subject here because strigils or scrapers are not going to be carrying anything, right? And we already have a nominative subject, serwi. And also, the fact that it's linked to this accusative suggests that it's also got to be accusative, so that are accusatives. And then two prepositional phrases I've bracketed in blue, post dominos after the masters and ad termas to the baths. Okay, so the only thing that's not underlined here is quotidiae, which is an adverb meaning every day. So kiwas pompiani trace termas habevant, the verb habevant, they had or they were having. Right? Is there a subject? Yeah, kiwas pompiani. So the Pompeian citizens had trace termas, the direct object, three baths. Kiwas quotidiae ad termas ebants. The ebants is they were going. So here BA tells me it's imperfect, and T tells me it's they something. So the actual stem of the verb is just the letter I. When the stem of the verb is just the letter I, it's a verb meaning to go. Right? So if the stem is just the letter I, it's a verb meaning to go. So ebant should be the imperfect, they were going. Okay. So citizens, ebant, citizens were going. Then our adverb, quotidiae, every day, and the prepositional phrase, ad termas, to the baths. So the citizens were going to the baths every day. Next verb, abalaba, they were walking. Who? The nominative, servi, slaves were walking. Prepositional phrase, post dominos, after the masters, right? Still sticking to that typical word order, right? Subject first, servi, verb last, abalabant, and then the prepositional phrase in between, after their masters. Servi, oleum, estrigolis, feribant. So the subject is servi, verb feribant. The slaves were carrying the accusatives, right? The verbs, the nouns are receiving the action, they're being carried. So the slaves were carrying oil and strigils, again, these things that will scrape the oil off their bodies when they clean themselves, right? Something we've talked about in class or will talk about in class. Right, look at that second paragraph. So let's go ahead and mark the verbs in red. So introerant, videvant, exercavant, salievant, admitavant, quirevant, invenerant, rowanievant, tredevant. Okay. And what about some nominatives? Right, so serwi has to be nominative, right? It's second declension nominative plural, and the fact that kiwas is linked to it by and suggests that's going to be nominative too. Okay. So here pugiles, nominative or accusative, right? But look the same, but it's linked to an accusative, so it's going to be accusative. Right? Athleti here, that is nominative plural. Okay, multi, nominative, plural. And serwi, of course. Second declension, nominative, plural. Okay, keyword here, object or preposition, so it can't be nominative. It's got to be accusative. Serwi. Okay, so let's go back and get the accusative. So first of all, thermas, they enter the baths, direct object. So athletos and pugiles, they are accusative, right? Athletos has to be first declension accusative plural. Pugiles goes with it. Say is also an accusative. In this chapter, you saw may and te, the accusative for me and you. And say is a reflexive pronoun we'll see later, but it forms similar to them. So may and te are accusative. Say is also accusative. It's reflexive that it refers back to the subject. So say extricabant, they were exercising themselves. Right, we can just leave it off in our English. In this circumstance, we can. Because in English, we wouldn't usually say they were exercising themselves. You just say they were exercising, right? Discos, of course, os, that's accusative. Second declension of plural. Okay, discos again. And again. Keywords here, object or preposition, so it's got to be the accusative. And discos. Okay. There's one other word here, a dative here. Let's mark that purple for now. Kiwibus here is going to be a dative form. Put a box around that. Okay. So, first sentence. So we have two clauses here. We have an interrupting postquam clause, postquam terminus introerrant. So let's come back to that. The main clause is kiwes et servi atletas et pugiles videbant. So the verb is videbant. They were seeing. Who were seeing? The kiwes and the servi. So citizens and the slaves were seeing or looking at atletas et pugiles, the athletes and boxers. And then the subordinate clause here, postquam termas introerrant, after introerrant, they entered termas, the baths, a direct object. So citizens and slaves, after they entered the baths, were looking at the athletes and boxers. All right, extricabant, they were exercising themselves, right? Who was the nominative plural, atleti, right? As first declension nominative plural. The athletes were exercising themselves, we could say, in palestra, in the exercise yard. In the palestra, we could just say multi salivant, so many were jumping. Multi discos imitavant, many were throwing, right? Mito we saw as send. Emito can be send out, like emit, but it's also a way of saying throwing. And with the discus, of course, you throw it, right? So it makes sense for it to be throwing. So many were throwing imitavant, discuses. Servi cubus discos quarebant. That's another dative I overlooked. The box around that. Very poorly placed box. So the slaves were looking for discuses, kiwibus, right? Kiwibus, that is a third declension dative plural ending, ibus. Right? If Apple was into mass transportation, they would make an ibus, right? So ibus here. All right, so the dative, usually to or for something, is called an indirect object. It'll do some other things we'll see later, but that's all we're going to see for now. So the slaves were looking for the accusative, the direct object, to or for, here for the indirect object, kibus, for the citizens. So slaves were looking for discuses in the dative for the citizens. Servi, so the slaves, postquam discos and inerrant. So the slaves, after they found the discuses, ad ques reveniebant, were returning to the citizens. Tum servi quibus discos redebant. So another dative here. So the slave then, or tum is then, one syllable begins with T. Then the slaves, tradivant, were handing over the discuses quibus, to the citizen. So they're handing over the direct object, the discuses, to the indirect object, right? Indirect object is to or for something, and that's the dative case in Latin. So ibus, a third declension dative plural, to the citizens. Right? Cives postquam se exerquerent abituterium intrabant. Okay, so the main clause is cives appaduterium intrabant, right? The citizens intrabant were entering appaduterium, the changing room. So it's the room with the baths in which you would take off your clothes. And then the subordinate clause here, postquam se exerquerent, after they exercised or after they exercise themselves. Omnes in appaduterio togas deponebant et tepidarium intrabant. So everyone, deponebant, they were taking off the accusative togas or togas in the appaduterium, in the changing room, and they were entering the tepidarium, which is the warm room of the baths. So there's a warm room, a cold room, a hot room. So they go into the warm room first. All right, this comma here is a misprint. That doesn't make any sense. So everyone, deponebant, were taking off their accusative togas in the changing room in appaduterio, and they were entering the tepidarium, the warm room. Cives in tepidario palisper sedebant, tum ad caldarium ebant. So the citizens sedebant, they were sitting, right, in present tense, ba, palisper, for a short while, in tepidario, in the tepidarium, in the warm room. Then ebant, the stem which is letter I, so as to go, they were going ad caldarium, to the hot room. In caldario erat multi celi. So in the hot room were many seats. Ibi could be there or then, just like ubi is where or when, ibi is there or then. I just mentioned a place, so it's probably going to be there, right? That's going to sound the best here. So there, domini sedebant, the masters sedebant, were sitting at gariebant, and they were chattering, they were gossiping or chattering, gariebant. Seri dominis oleum et strigoles perebant. So the slaves, perebant, they were carrying oleum et strigoles, so oil and strigoles, the oil and strigils, dominis, for their masters. That's our dative here, dominis, for the masters. So the slaves were carrying the accusatives, oleum et strigoles, oil and strigils, dominis, for their masters. Seri dominus diligenter radebant. So the slaves, radebant, they were scraping. Dominus, or masters. Diligenter is an adverb. A lot of adverbs are going to end in E or ter. So the slaves, radebant, were scraping. The accusative, the masters, are being scraped. Diligenter, carefully or diligently. Thermae pompianos valde delectabant. So the subject is thermae, the baths. Valde delectabant were pleasing, were very pleasing, valde pleasing to the Pompeians. So they were pleasing the Pompeians very much, we could say. If the Pompeians liked them very much, if we really wanted to rearrange the words in English. Okay. So thermae, the baths. Till next time.